Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Before I begin, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy New Year's and much success and fortune for 2016. I know that anytime a whole new year comes around, it's very exciting because the anticipation of thinking and wondering what the new year will bring, especially if, let's say, you start planning out things ahead of time or stuff even becomes spontaneous. All of that is just overall very exciting. So again, much success and fortunes for yourselves out there. With regards to the urban legends, I wanted to go ahead and start it sooner than usual. I was going to wait until the weekend to do so, but I was looking at some of your suggestions this go around, and they are pretty fascinating, so I wanted to share one right off the bat. This one I've never heard of before, but it instantly reminded me of one of my past videos about a year or so back, The Black Shook. It had to do with this devil-like dog that apparently attacked several churches. And then on top of that, there's physical proof of the actual Black Shook, either in some bones that were found or in some of the remnants of its scorch marks, I guess, from its paws, whatever it left on the church itself. If you haven't had a chance, take a look at the video. I've included the link below. It's one of my more popular ones, and that's why I picked this one here, because it's very similar. There's apparently evidence of a real life, I guess, mythical creature that has physical, like its remains are here to this day. And then on top of that, there's a cousin or some sort of it as well, whose physical evidence can apparently be found around certain areas too. I'll explain all of that here in a minute. And so it has to do with the urban legend of, and for lack of a better term, it's called the Lincoln Imp, which you're looking at a picture of here. And the Lincoln Imp is apparently, it's an imp that was cast in stone, and according to urban legends, and still remains there in the church to this day, just staring down at viewers, forever cast in stone, unable to get out of its predicament. And so because of that, it will spend eternity in the last pose that it had right before it was turned to stone. So what is the Lincoln Imp? Well, you have to go to the town of Lincolnshire, England, more specifically to the Lincoln Cathedral. That's why it's called the Lincoln Imp, because it has to be it's done, this location there is with the Lincoln Cathedral. The Lincoln Cathedral itself is a pretty beautiful looking church. It's massive, gigantic. Apparently it was one of the tallest building in the world, or if not the tallest building in the world, for over 200 years. Very old building. We're talking about something that was built like in the 1100s or so. So whether this weird creature of some sort, the way it was carved, when it was built, how it was carved, who knows? Whoever did it, or if it's true, at least on the urban legend side, and it was a mythical creature, whatever happened hundreds of years ago. So whoever knows that information, they are long past dead. That's why in this case we have nothing but urban legends to reside about, and this is it itself. So you have to go back, and even as far back as to the 14th, maybe 13th century, in fact, and tales began to spread about how this weird looking creature came about. An imp, by the way, is, for lack of a better term, more along the lines of like a lackey or a pawn within hell itself. It's not exactly, I guess, like a full-blown demon of sorts, but it is still a pretty dangerous creature. It's one of those, I guess, mischievous type entities that loves playing havoc on anybody that it can. And so the story, the urban legend goes that for whatever reason, I guess the devil decided he wanted to create mischief there on earth, and so he sent either one or two of these imps straight there to Lincolnshire, England. I say one or two because depending on the urban legends, some of them say there was only one imp, and then others state that there was two of them. And so in this case, we're going to go ahead with two, because that seems to be the more popular of the ones. So what happened was they immediately, these imps, they focused their attention on the Lincoln Cathedral, which makes sense because as a home and location for religious tones, especially on the heaven side, then they wanted to make sure that they got everyone's attention. And when they did so, they went straight inside. They started smashing things up. Apparently, they were throwing rocks. They were overturning chairs. They were breaking tables. Basically, just creating havoc within the church itself. That's what reminded me of the Black Shook, because the Black Shook, this devil-like dog, apparently also did the same thing within one of the churches visited, which was its most memorable encounter. So back to the imps. There they were, creating havoc almost like gremlins would, straight from a movie, when in another turn of events, an angel apparently appeared out of one of the hymns. I don't know if it was like one of the books themselves or somewhere else altogether, but it came out, and much, I guess, to the relief of all the people that were there in church, it told these imps to stop. Clearly, they were not going to do that. They started actually now attacking the angel itself, and when that happened, the angel fought back. So there it was. Those that were there in the church, they saw a full-blown battle of sorts between heaven and hell, and everything was being turned around. Everything was being thrown. Finally, it got to the point where the battle took place near one of these pillars, and the imp at that point jumped up. According to people that were there, jumped up to one of the top of the pillars, and then I don't know if it was doing this stance, I guess, as a stance of mockery, but the way it jumped up and it landed on that particular pillar, it stared down at the angel almost like with a grin of some sorts, and then in a relaxing mode, it placed its legs, like one leg over the other, like men would usually do whenever they're relaxing or in a casual stance of some sort. And when that happened, that's when the angel took advantage of, I guess, this moment of mockery and turned the first imp straight to stone. And then that was it. So that figure, the way it's positioned to this day, that was again the last moments of the imp while it was still, I guess, alive. And when that happened, then it was cast to stone. That's how it'll spend forever, its eternity. People stayed, and it stays there on the church. It hasn't been removed because it's supposed to be a daily reminder of the battle between good and evil, and then eventually how good will always overcome evil. As far as the second imp, when the angel was finished, I guess, turning everything as far as the first imp into stone, that gave the second imp a chance to escape. And there are various versions of what happened to that imp as well. One of those seems to be the idea that the imp actually still is around that cathedral. It wants to find its, I guess, cousin or whatever it was as far as the first imp. And so to this day, people say that whenever there's a strong wind of some sort around that cathedral, it's actually from the second imp circling the building, always trying to look for its compatriot, whoever the first imp was. Other legends state that whenever this imp escaped, it actually went to another nearby church, in this case St. James's Church, and started doing the very same thing as the first church encounter. Again, basically just throwing things around, creating havoc altogether. And in that version, the angel, yet again, the very same one from the first church, popped up and then was able to pretty much soundly beat this second imp to a defeat. And when it did so, it lashed it, I guess, from the backside several times, so much so that again, when it turned into stone, its last position, the way it was, there was the imp essentially almost like, I guess, holding its backside as if it was had a really sore bottom. And that's the idea regarding that second imp, that it in turn was also frozen in stone there in the second church, in almost like a comical stance because of the thrashing it was encountering with the angel. So those are the urban legends, at least with the imps themselves. To this day, in fact, they remain a pretty popular piece of culture there in Lincolnshire, England. So much so that there's, I guess, like hockey clubs that are named after them. There's football clubs that are named after them. They appear on various pieces of let's say city artifacts of some sort, kind of like like Loch Ness monster. The way the merchandise there in and around its location, people see the stuff on T-shirts, they see it on bumper stickers, that kind of stuff. The same thing apparently is with these Lincoln Imps. They are used as a pop culture image, so much so, in fact, that one of the most interesting things is there was a guy by the name of James Ward Usher who was apparently able to take, I don't know how he got sole rights to this image, but he was apparently able to take the images of these imps and then incorporate them into jewelry of all things, stuff that people would wear, and it hit off pretty well. They sell pretty good. I guess in that area, they've become so ingrained in pop culture that to this day, people still walk around with this jewelry, showcasing, I guess, their affinity for these imps, or at least the lore associated with it. And they have the very same stance that the imp does there in the Lincoln Cathedral. So that's quite fascinating to note on that part too. So what do you guys think? The urban legend tied to the Lincoln Imp. No idea really, again, how true all of this is. You would have to take a huge belief when it comes to religion to know, like, if that truly is, like, let's say a trapped imp of some sort, that's how it came to be. There's also the idea that the reason why the imp is there and then the imp is in the other church, the one I mentioned earlier, the St. James's Church, it's but for the fact that it was somewhere in the 13th, 14th century, for whatever reason, it was popular to have such a design around locations. It was just one of those things that someone did something like that as far as an imp design, and when that happened, it caught on, and then others started mimicking it. So there's that idea as well. So if anyone has any more information, that would be great to hear. Any other comments would always be appreciated. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.